Hi there, and welcome to week 2 of the 5 to 10k programme. So in our coaching for this week, what are we going to talk about? Let's have science of ultra first of all. We're looking at running mechanics and energetics, which is not essential knowledge, but if you can listen to that, you'll learn how your body works when you're running. And the more you understand how your body is working, the better able you'll be to improve your running economy and to get the most out of this programme. So possibly this is the most important week. It's not quite. The week on running economy, I think, is the most important. But to get the most out of that week, you really need to understand or listen to this part here about running mechanics and energetics. Okay, so what the researcher there is explaining is, if you remember week 1, we talked about how your muscles need fuel to burn, and it's burning ATP, which allows the muscle to contract and for movement to take place. And this ATP is created by the glucose, which comes from the nutrients, and the oxygen, which comes from your breathing. So it's conversion of food and oxygen into ATP, which is then used by our muscles to create movement. So the more efficiently that is done, the more power we have in our muscles. So if we're good at this, if we can get a lot of nutrients and oxygen to our muscles, and the body is well adapted to creating ATP, then your muscles will be able to create a lot more power, be able to run faster, or be able to continue producing power at a lower level over an extended period. Okay, how do the muscles get you to move? Well, the muscles, as I suggested, they contract. So if you can imagine, this is my bicep here. So as I'm lifting up here, if I had a weight here, then this muscle contracts, and that's what gives the power to lift up my hand and forearm and any dumbbell or whatever it is that my hand is holding. So that's a concentric contraction. When we're going to reduce it, we'll find out in a few weeks' time. In some ways more beneficial thing is an eccentric, which is where you're lowering gradually. Now, why is it still a contraction when this is contraction? Your muscle is getting shorter. Contract means become shorter, and that's because you have other muscles. For each muscle you have going in one direction contracting, you have another one which elongates. So it's contraction of the opposing muscle that you're getting through the eccentric. Okay, so muscles have to join to your bones, obviously, and they're joined by tendons. You've probably heard about tendons. People get tendonitis or whatever. So tendons are the fibres which are fixed to your muscles at one end and fixed to your bones at the other end. So as the muscles contract and release, expand, they work like springs. They store energy. So in your foot you have a big, a flat tendon, if you like, down there, and when your foot lands, it straightens out. So you have an arch. When you land, this straightens out. That stores up energy as it's being stretched, and when you lift off, it acts like a spring. So it flattens out and boing, and you launch off again. So that's your tendons do that. They don't consume energy, but they do lose about 4% of the force. So for every unit of energy that you're putting into your foot or any other muscle, for every unit of energy that you're putting into that, you get just over 95% bounding back up. The tendons, and not so much tendons, but the physical action takes up the other 4%. Things like shoes can affect their efficiency. So in terms of mechanics and energetics, the way that your shoes work can make running more difficult, or it can make it easier. The most obvious thing that comes to mind is when they started to introduce carbon plates into runners' shoes. In fact, they were banned. They made such a big difference. They were banned for quite a while, because when you went down and you flattened out, it wasn't just your foot which flattened and rebounded. It was this carbon plate in your shoe that flattened and rebounded as well. It gave you much extra bounce, and it made you much faster. And that's why they were banned. Now everybody uses them. I guess you can't hold back progress. So, yes, having the right shoes can definitely improve or reduce your efficiency in running. Mostly the differences are across individuals. So as we're going through this, we'll give you pointers as to how you can improve your efficiency. But they have to be general. You have tall people, short people, thin people, less thin people. Goodness knows I used to be a lot less thin than I am now. But I also used to be thinner than I am now. So, some of us are inherently more efficient than others. Some people have got longer legs than others. If you've got longer legs, essentially it gives you free speed, much faster than somebody that's got short legs. So there's no general rules about, particularly when you're coming to shoes, what is a good shoe for any particular thing. Yes, your shoes are divided up into road shoes, trail shoes, and you get kind of some people call them hybrids, I would call them intermediates, and where they're not particularly brilliant road shoes or particularly brilliant trail shoes, but they're pretty good for both road and trail. But it's really how you as an individual interact with your shoes. That's the important thing. So me, I like Hokas. Lots of people like Hokas. Lots of people detest Hokas. Does that mean that Hoka is a great shoe and those that don't like it are stupid, or that Hokas really are terrible and it's me that's stupid because I like them? No, it's what suits you, and it can take years. I mean, I don't know how many years it took me trying different shoes, not consciously, but just every time I bought a new pair of shoes, I bought what took my fancy. Now I know that I get on well with Hokas. If I try other ones, I'm not so comfortable, not so efficient. So they suit me. Same with the stride length. We talked a bit about cadence last week, the number of steps per minute, and how it used to be said that you had to have a cadence of about 170 steps per minute, but that's now being shown not to be right unless you want to be an elite runner. And for recreational runners like us, your stride, your cadence is your cadence, and it works against you to try and artificially change it. You can train yourself to do that, but for recreational running, you don't have to do that. Same with your stride length. As I said, if you've got long legs, then you're going to have a long stride, and you'll cover more distance for each stride. If you've got short legs, you're going to be running less distance for each stride. It's patently obvious, you don't have to have a PhD to know that. But like a lot of knowledge and understanding, it is stating the obvious, but it's only obvious when somebody points it out to you. So that's good. Okay, so that was the science of ultra. In the rest of the resources, there are a few foot and ankle strengthening exercises to do. Ankle circles, bringing your foot up and down, back and forward, walking on your toes, walking on your heels, and hopping. So have a look at the videos for that and try and do these maybe a couple of times a week, 3 times a week. Basically when it's a non-running day would be good. But have a look at the PDF. You probably get some, I probably gave you some guidance in there. The Sage and Sandy Kennedy videos are particularly pertinent to this week. This week, last week it was flat, or as flat as you can get round about Falkland. This week we are going to go uphill, and it's a significant hill that we're going up. The distance, it's a 5k, so a bit more than last week. Last week was an easy start, 4k's. This week we're doing 5k's, which you should be accustomed to doing, but we're going to include quite a significant hill. It's the Kilgour Crags. Okay, so it's about a kilometre, just over a kilometre long, and starts off quite gentle, then becomes a little bit steeper, and then it goes quite steep all the way to the top. So getting information from experienced mountain ultra trail runners is obviously going to be handy for you there. And they talk about short steps. I call them baby steps. Shorten your stride. Stay upright. Look ahead. Don't look at the top of the hill, but just don't look at your feet. Just maybe about 10 metres ahead, so that you give your brain a chance to see what's coming, and your body will then prepare itself for what's coming. The short steps, or baby steps part, there is a bit in Science of Ultra, not this week, but one of the future weeks, I think, which talks about why short steps are important. Now, if you can imagine you're going up a hill like that, and here's my steps. I'm not doing this very well. As I'm going up the hill, I'm stepping forward, but I'm also stepping up. If I'm stepping forward, I'm only going to go to here, but I'm also going to there. That means I'm going against gravity. It's a bit like the bounce that we talked about last week. You're going against gravity, you're having to lift your body weight against gravity. So what we're trying to do with short steps or baby steps is to reduce the amount of vertical movement by reducing the amount of horizontal movement. So little baby steps takes you a little bit further forward, but it also means you're only lifting your body weight a little bit as well. Whereas if you take a long stride, then you're going to have to lift your body weight significant amount, and you will get tired much more quickly doing that than you will lifting it the distance of a baby step. Downhill running form, it's not their focus for this week. We will do that in a week still to come, and we will revisit these videos. But it's interesting that when you're running downhill, the most effective way is take short steps, baby steps, stay upright. So these first two are essentially the same thing, whether you're going uphill or downhill. Going uphill, it's to reduce fatigue, to use less energy. When you're going downhill, it's more so that you can stay in control, and you won't have a tumble, and you won't put excess strain on your knees. But we'll talk about that again. If it gets steeper when you're going uphill, or if it gets really steep going downhill as well, but thinking mainly going uphill, when it's steeper than about 1 in 5, which is quite a steep hill, probably something like that, then it is more economical to walk than it is to run. So you're allowed to use your discretion. This has been proven through research. You are allowed to use your discretion and walk rather than run. Again, coming back to the people that run in the mountains, you'll find that they walk up hills and they run down the other side. In fact, some of them, they use hiking poles to help them get up the hills. They just won't run the whole way, because when you get to the top, you've used so much energy that it takes you a long time to recover. You can't even really run properly down the other side of the hill, or if it's on the flat, you've got nothing left in the tank. If you can imagine that you might be running 50 miles or 100 miles, and 10 miles of that is steep hills, it wouldn't take you long before you're just totally spent and you're not going to finish the event. So that's your coaching notes for this week. Have a look at the resources, everything is in there. If you've got any questions, then have a word with me after the run or during the run, and I'm very happy to answer anything. Okay, so good luck for week 2, and I hope you'll enjoy the challenge of running up Kilgour Crags.